We're talking sports litigation with David Boies, chairman of the law firm of Boies, Schiller, and Flexner, and a man who's argued some of the highest-profile legal cases of all time. Bush-Gore to the Microsoft antitrust case to the same-sex marriage in California. David, a case that could have tremendous national impact may soon be heard in a U.S. District Court in New Jersey. Governor Chris Christie said he's going to ignore federal law and declare sports betting to be legal in his state, and the move's being contested in a lawsuit by the NCAA and the 4 major pro sports leagues. How do you handicap this clash of titans?
I think that the federal government probably has the better part of that argument. The issue of the extent to which a state can determine that a particular activity within its state borders is going to be lawful, even though the federal government, from an interstate commerce standpoint, declares it to be unlawful on a national basis, is something that the courts are facing all the time. Sports betting is a little bit different than marijuana smoking, but the same legal issues arise in California right now, where the federal government is prosecuting people for growing marijuana for medical purposes, which is lawful, expressly lawful under California law. So the issue is the federal government only has the power to regulate things like gambling or marijuana based on its power under the Constitution to regulate interstate commerce. Now, what is interstate commerce? Is somebody going to a New Jersey betting parlor to bet on a sports event, interstate commerce? Certainly, if growing marijuana in California and consuming it in California affects interstate commerce under the Constitution, probably the sports betting affects interstate commerce and hence can be regulated by Congress. So if I were sort of trying to figure out how this lawsuit was going to come out, despite my high regard for Governor Christie, I think he's got an uphill battle.
Well, he's got an uphill battle, but are the stakes beyond New Jersey, Nevada, Oregon has a little bit of this, but would the win by the states open the revenue floodgates for another opportunity to generate some cash for their respective coffers?
Sure. I mean, just like casino gambling has for various states. One of the things you have to take into account is that unlike casino gambling, sports gambling is something that you don't need large casinos to operate in. So once you open the floodgates, you could have this proliferate in essentially every state that was prepared to do it. And if it's going to be done, I think you'll find a lot of states that may want to jump in.
And speaking of gambling, let's turn to the political perspective and a political gamble. Earlier this month, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett filed suit against the NCAA. He claims that the sanctions against Penn State were an overreach and caused irreparable harm to the businesses in his state. He wants the penalties overturned. And by the way, the $60 million fine revoked. And many analysts called the suit frivolous. What say you?
I don't think the suit is frivolous. Again, I think that the NCAA probably wins that lawsuit. But I don't think it's frivolous. I think that the issue is whether this is the kind of issue, the kind of controversy that the NCAA really needs to address and really has the power to address. The NCAA has a substantial amount of power to act collectively in order to make its sports league operations work. You've got to have cooperative collective activity to make a sports league work. Whether you need this particular power is what is going to be litigated in this lawsuit. And while I think the NCAA does ultimately prevail, this is not a frivolous lawsuit. I think there'll be some serious issues that will be resolved here.
The NCAA may have the legal ability on their side. Politically, some people say they may be unraveling conference musical chairs, the BCS issue. Is there more incentive for them now to settle as opposed to have a serious challenge against their authority or not?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I think the NCAA continues to be a strong, active force and very much a force for good. I think the NCAA will continue to develop, and the issues that happen with respect to some of these conference changes and things like that, I think that's just part of the normal process. I think that this sanctions issue is different. I think this sanctions issue does go to sort of the limits on the power of the NCAA. I don't think that this case is going to materially change those limits. This is a very unusual case, and I think that however this case is resolved, it's not going to challenge or reduce the power and authority of the NCAA in its conventional operations.
Most important legal question I'm ever going to ask you, 10 seconds. Who wins the Super Bowl by what score?
San Francisco and New England in the Super Bowl. San Francisco 28-27.
You don't get that insight everywhere, folks. David Boies, thank you so much for your time and your expert analysis. Please come back on Sportfolio anytime.
Thank you.